Ugly motherfucker.
Predators from 2010. It's kind of wild to me that after Predator 2, if you don't count the Alien vs. Predator movies, that it took 20 years before they made another solo Predator movie. That is wild to me. Like, obviously, there are tons of comic books and video games and expanded media and stuff, but until we got a third Predator movie, 20 years. Insane. Also, I kind of wish they just called it Predator 3 because Predators is a clear reference to the title Aliens, which is fine. I mean, we've crossed over Alien and Predator multiple times, but I feel like Predator should be able to stand as its own franchise and not be reliant on references to another Alien franchise. I don't know, just call it Predator 3. But my history with this movie is this. I've seen it once before rewatching it for this review, back in 2010 when it came out in theaters. That was it. I never went back and revisited this movie, not even once until now. But I do remember that back in 2010, I really liked this movie. I actually thought it was way better than I thought it was going to be at the time, and I remember enjoying it. I remember getting a lot out of it and having a good time. But that's about the extent of my memory. And 15 years have passed and I have gotten older. And so rewatching it now, I will say this. I like a lot of things about this movie, but it wasn't quite as great as I remember it being. Now, this movie is very similar to the original Predator, but it has a number of twists on the concept. In the beginning of the film, you have Adrian Brody, who is the main character, and he's literally falling out of the sky. That is the first shot. He wakes up from being unconscious, falling out of the sky, has a parachute on, pulls it, and lands somewhere in the jungle. And then as he's doing this, he's looking around, and all of a sudden, Danny Trejo pops up, which in the real world, that's probably the best person you want to be there. But in movies, Danny Trejo usually plays a pretty shitty person, so probably not somebody you want there. More and more people start to show up. One person falls out of the sky, his parachute doesn't open, and he just, smashes into the ground and dies instantly. And we get this ensemble cast of characters. None of them know each other. And there are actually a lot of famous actors in this movie. I mean, obviously, Adrian Brody went on. He's won Oscars and stuff. He's a very, I'd say, more prestigious actor than you would expect to be in a movie like this. But we also have, like I said, Danny Trejo is in here. Lawrence Fishburne shows up at one point. We have Walton Goggins in this movie. There's Mahershala Ali, there's Topher Grace. There's just like a ridiculous amount of talent in this movie that even I was kind of like having trouble remembering that all of these different actors were in here. And it's all just one big ensemble cast. So the unique thing that they do in this movie with the cast is this. One is that none of the characters know each other at first. So all the characters are very hesitant to trust one another, and you're slowly learning different things about them as it goes on. And one of the things that we learn as the audience is that all of these characters are not only highly skilled, but they're pretty much all bad people. We have a member of the cartel. We have a member of the Yakuza. We have Walton Goggins' character that was on death row. There's other soldiers in here, people that were, murdering and executing other people. Like, all of these people seem to be like the worst of the worst, which is an interesting twist on the original Predator, where they were like, the best of mercenaries that do their thing, all deadly people, but for all intents and purposes, at least like trying to do good, right? But now we have a group of characters that are all bad people and none of them know each other. And so they're all just immediately distrustful of one another as well. And they're going to have to be forced to work together to figure out what's going on. And as they're traversing the terrain, they notice strange and weird things as they go along. And eventually they come to discover that they're not even on planet Earth. They look above, they see the sun is taking a really, really long time to go down. And then they can see different kind of stars and planets and stuff in the distance that you would never see on Earth. And I do feel like that reveal happens a little bit too soon, because early on there's a character that believes that they're in hell. And I think having a little bit more mystery about where they actually are could have benefited the movie, and then have the big reveal that they're on another planet happen, after like the halfway point of the movie or something. But it happens fairly early on. They realize they're not on planet Earth. And then they also realize that they are, of course, being hunted. So this is some sort of game preserve for the predators, and there are multiple predators on this planet hunting down all of these criminal characters. And I like that premise. I like the premise of having the main cast all be villainous characters, essentially, and also having them be forced to work together when they come from all of these various different backgrounds and have to kind of figure things out as they go along. I like the discovery that they're on a different planet rather than Earth, although I do think it happens a little bit too soon. And I like all of the differences between them. The only problem is that some of them are a little bit too on the nose. Like the Yakuza member, ends up, fighting with a katana later on. And like, there's just like little, like super cliche stuff like that. But I think it works for the type of movie that this is. It didn't really bother me too much, but sometimes it does delve into being a little bit too silly for its own good. And the entire movie does take place on this planet. So similarly to the first Predator movie, the whole movie takes place in a jungle-like location, kind of throwing it back to the original. And there's a lot of references and homages to the original. One of my biggest pet peeves is when there's like callback lines of dialogue that don't really make a lot of sense that characters would say. However, in this movie, there's a moment where Adrian Brody is like, "Come here, come on, kill me." Normally that would bother me, but I actually think how it was used in the movie made sense to his character. Like, it feels like something he would have said in the moment, even though it is a direct word for word, line of dialogue that Arnold said in the original, but it didn't bother me as much in this one. And you see other types of alien species here too. So the predators have these dog-like creatures, or, they're referenced as being like a pack of dogs. They don't look anything like dogs at all, but they are, they have them go out as a means to separate the group of humans so that they're easier to take down. So you get to see a different type of creature rather than just the predators themselves. However, they are all CGI, which, I think the CGI in this movie is not so great, but I do think the practical effects are really good. So pretty much all of the predators are done with practical effects still. When the masks come off, it's animatronics, and they look, I'll give this movie credit. The predators in this movie look exactly how they did in the original and in Predator 2. There's this whole subplot where they find this captured predator that's tied up but still alive, and it looks almost exactly like the Predator from the original film. So I do have to say that all of the practical effects, all of the animatronics, and the predators themselves, they all look great. It's just when the movie decides to do CGI, and there's like unnecessary CGI, like there's like CGI cockroaches that crawl around. It's like, you couldn't just get some cockroaches. Like, are cockroaches that expensive? You had to use CGI cockroaches? I don't know. But things flow as you think they would, where the predators begin attacking the characters and killing them off. Unfortunately, Danny Trejo's character is one of the first to get killed, but I think his death scene, even though it's off screen, what happens afterwards is probably my favorite moment of the movie, where the predators position Danny Trejo's body after they've killed him. They kill him off screen, and the other characters come across his body, and it's in the distance, and it's turned around so they only see his back, and you hear Danny Trejo's voice say, "Help me, help me." But we know, as the audience, that that's the predator mimicking his voice, because we've seen the predator do this before. And the fact that his back is turned, that you can't see his mouth moving, you think he's just injured and saying, "Help me," to draw the characters out for the predator to kill them more easily, right? And one character realizes this before anyone goes out there. But there's just this really haunting moment where the camera lingers on the back of Danny Trejo's character's body as he's just kind of laying there limp, and you just hear the "help me, help me." And it's really creepy, and I think it's probably the most effective scene in the whole movie. About halfway through the film, they introduce Lawrence Fishburne out of nowhere, and it's a fine reveal, but it feels like it didn't necessarily need to be here because it doesn't lead to very much. And that's how a lot of the middle of this movie feels for me. It's like the premise is very interesting and really cool. I dig it. I like the setting of being on another planet. I like that there's multiple predators. I like all of the stuff that is happening here. But in the meantime, it didn't feel like there was enough building of the relationships of the characters. Like there's a little bit, but not enough. And it seems like they introduced elements periodically just to kind of keep the movie going and to like let it fill its runtime. Like I love Lawrence Fishburne, don't get me wrong. He shows up as this survivor on the planet, somebody that was with a previous group of humans that were here, that were hunted down, but he managed to survive. He said that he's killed at least 2 predators, maybe 3. His mind is kind of going. He's talking to an imaginary friend. Like he's great in the movie, so I can't be too upset about it, but it doesn't really culminate into anything. And then he's like immediately killed off after that. So you think he's like this great hardcore survivor, but he actually tries to betray the group so he can take their weapons and supplies, and then a predator shows up and kills him. So I don't know. I love that he's there because I love Lawrence Fishburne, but it just doesn't amount to much. The other thing I have to talk about is Topher Grace's character. So obviously Topher Grace, we know him from That 70s Show and all that. He's in this movie. I actually think he's pretty good in the movie, but they make a very particular choice with his character. So like all the other characters, you can tell that they're more, strong, capable, more gruff. They're from military backgrounds, gang backgrounds, Yakuza backgrounds, whatever. But Topher Grace's character, he's scrawny, he's more nerdy, and he's really, really smart when it comes to like figuring out different things that are going on in this planet. Like he recognizes the poison coming from one of the plants, and he, warns people about this or that. And he says there's no way we could be under any hallucination because this would be happening in this. So he's like, he's built up as like maybe he's some sort of scientist or something. And early on in the movie, Adrian Brody is talking to another character, and he says, Topher Grace's character, that's the only one that doesn't seem to make sense with the rest of the group that we have here. So I'm a little bit suspicious of him. And then again, like nothing happens with that until like the last 10 minutes of the movie, where all of a sudden Topher Grace turns and slices the one girl of the group, and basically is like using poison on her. And that was his whole thing. He was like this sadistic murderer or something. That's why he was part of this group. But the twist happens so late in the movie that he only betrays her, and then immediately after, Adrian Brody shows up and, grabs him, stabs him in the throat, and then uses him as bait for the predator. So it's like they set up this idea that somebody in the group is going to betray them, but it only happens like right at the very end of the movie, and then it is immediately switched up. So it's like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I like the idea of that, like having a different type of killer. Like you have all of these very obvious soldiers and killers and stuff, and then you have a more covert kind of sneaky serial killer in the group as well. I like that idea that's very knowledgeable about poisons and all that kind of stuff of what he uses. But the twist reveal happens so late in the film that like it's kind of like we're already over that. Like at that point, we have predators fighting each other. We have the final battle that's ensuing. It's like there's so much other things going on that by the time the reveal happens, it's like okay, I guess. We get a couple other cool things that happen here. Like we get to see 2 predators fight each other. There's the one captive predator that Adrian Brody lets loose, and then that one fights the last remaining predator. And it's an all right fight scene. I wish it was a little bit better, but I do like I said, the animatronic and the design of the main predator killer here. He has a very exaggerated face, like with the jaws kind of protruding out. He's a really cool looking character. And then Adrian Brody faces off with him at the end, kind of like very similar to Arnold fighting the Predator at the end of the first one, where he's kind of stripped down, covering himself with mud, going mano-y-mano, and then eventually is able to kill the Predator. But the only thing is, the ending of this movie kind of implies that more Predators and more victims are arriving at the planet. So, like, they went through all of this bullshit. There's only 2 characters left, and one of them is still poisoned and can barely move. And then, you have Adrian Brody, who just, like, went through this whole battle exhausted. And so, like, it kind of implies they're going to have to go through all of that again. So in a way, it's like, okay, they survived, they killed the Predator, but like there's no way they're going to survive the next wave. So basically, I think the premise and idea of this movie is really cool, and I think they do some great stuff in here, but I can't help but be a little bit underwhelmed by the movie in total. It's not quite as great as I remember it being. It's a lot cheesier than I remember it being, and the middle portions of this movie just kind of feel like they're buying time until we get to the final battles, which all sort of happen at once. Like there's like the Yakuza fight, Walton Goggins gets killed, Then there's the reveal with Topher Grace, and then it just the final fight, and it's like all of that happens like right at the very end, rather than it being stretched out a little bit more throughout the movie. Like most of the body count happens in the finale, as opposed to the original Predator, where characters are being periodically killed off as it goes on. But like I said, I still have fun with it. I don't think it's a bad movie. If anything, I think it might be a little underrated, but at the same time, it's just not as good as the first two. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think of Predators down below from 2010. Should just call it Predator 3, but whatever. If you like this movie, if you think it's underrated, maybe overrated, I don't know what the general consensus of this one is. However, I do know the next Predator movie I have to watch, which is The Predator. Just call it Predator 4. I don't know. I have actually never seen this one. So I skipped this one. I kind of forgot it even existed. So this next movie will be a first-time watch for me. And I've heard that this movie is terrible. So I don't know what to expect. But until then, thanks for watching this video, guys. Give it a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you feel about Predators down below. If you want to support the channel on a deeper level, I do have Patreon channel memberships and all the social media links. You can follow me down below. Even $1 a month goes a long way. I'd really appreciate it if you considered it. But other than that, guys, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you next time.